Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4playernetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Get started.
Yeah, let's do it.
We can do this shit.
I dare you.
All right. I'll take that dare. Hello, everyone. Welcome to 4Player Podcast, episode 673. It's March
18th.
18th? Oh, damn it. I was so close. March 18th, 2021. My name is Nick Henderson. Joining me tonight is Nolan Hedstrom.
How's it going, everybody?
Christopher Guthridge.
Hello.
And Christopher Davis.
Good evening.
And boy, do we have a show for you. I don't want to build it up or anything. It's probably not going to be that great, I guess, but
let's shoot host for setting those expectations.
Yeah.
I like to set realistic expectations for these podcasts.
You could probably skip this one, really, honestly.
Crispy.
This is a drive time podcast.
You got to under-promise and over-deliver. That's how you get it.
You're right.
Or as I like to sometimes do, under-promise and then under-deliver.
I can't believe this is how our best episode ever started.
I know. Anyways, welcome to the show, guys. We have video games to talk about. As always, we're going to talk about Monster Hunter Iceborne, right, Crispy? You've gotten sucked back into that.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter Iceborne lately. Monster Hunter World Iceborne, I should say.
You getting excited for? Is this in preparation because you're getting excited for Rise, or you just? You
know what? It started off that way, and it has become something else. But we'll talk about it.
Okay. All right. We'll get there. We're also going to talk about another game that I played this week. We'll get there. But first, I want to remind everybody that all of our year in review content is now available. You can watch all of our top 10 games of 2020 up on 4playernetwork.com. It's up on YouTube. It's up on Twitter. It's pretty much everywhere. So if you're looking for something to watch while you eat some food, or you're just hanging out, or if you're just doom scrolling and you need something to do on your phone, it's out there.
Or if you're at the DMV, you can watch Carlos's video.
Or if you're at the DMV, you can watch Carlos's video. As predicted, Carlos's video I do think has the most views and comments. But I'm fairly
most of the comments are basically something along the lines of, "Oh shit, I ain't watching this."
Yeah, more or less. But you know what? I challenge anybody in the community to watch that from start to finish. Let us know what you think.
It's beautiful. It's glorious. I love it.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a journey.
On the other end of that spectrum, you can watch Ed Mitchell's top 10 games of 2020. It's a crisp, cool 16 minutes. Or you can go with Carlos's video, or anywhere in between. Really, it's all out there. Like I said, 4playernetwork.com.
Carlos's is basically the Snyder Cut.
Actually, the funny thing is,
it is a bold artistic vision.
It is a bold artistic vision that is also, spoiler alert, longer than Zack Snyder's Justice League. So. Anybody gonna watch that this weekend, by the way?
I am so morbidly curious, but that's what they want.
That's what they want. But man, something's got to be said about the fact that I was expecting nobody was going to be able to get past, even if it was an improvement, I didn't think anybody was going to be able to look past the runtime. But it is still skating by at 78% on Rotten Tomatoes with 150 reviews, and I am just like, what?
The people who are excited for this are just losing their fucking minds too. I've stumbled into multiple threads on Twitter today that are just people very condescendingly explaining aspect ratios because this movie's in 4:3, and it's well, actually 4:3 is the superior cinematic format because you see more of the top, but oh my god. It's insane. It's insane.
So I saw someone mention the fact that it was in 4:3, but I thought they were being facetious. Is the movie really in 4:3?
It's in 4:3. But to be fair,
And
to be fair,
there's like a warning card beforehand that's like this movie is presented in a 4:3 aspect to maintain Zack Snyder's
artistic vision.
creative integrity, or like something like that.
I'm just gonna zoom and crop. Fuck
Was-
Zack Snyder.
It's
Was he making this movie on a tube TV? What
no,
the
I
fuck?
honestly I think I don't know. I haven't looked into it because I haven't cared enough to, but I think from what I've gleaned that a lot of it was shot in IMAX format, which
yeah.
is closer to 4:3 than it
Correct,
is
yeah.
to
Okay.
I thought he just wanted you to see the bottom of the boom in every shot.
No,
and
there's
so
a
he just
lot of
cut
shots
the-
composed to like an IMAX frame where like, you'll see Batman in the foreground and then like in the background is like some ruined city he's looking at, but it's like way the fuck up at the top of the frame, and if you put the put the black bars in, it would cut it all out. So
Gotcha.
I don't know. We've already talked way more about this movie than I ever expected to.
Whatever happened to
You know-
Scan and Pan?
To be fair,
Oh, what?
from the moment they announced this, I think some people missed it, but from the moment they announced that the Snyder Cut was actually coming out, they've said it was going to be 4:3. It's not like
Oh,
they
really?
waited until launch day and then it was like, hey, surprise,
Yeah.
4:3.
I
And
think
very
people
upfront
were
about
just talking about it because people were posting that title card at the beginning. That's like,
that. Because that is kind of funny. Like,
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on. Come on. Like,
Come
if you
on.
just not said anything, it would have been better. Just
You know what? You know what is interesting too? HBO also posted like in HBO Max. There's a section that's like Zack Snyder's picks. It's like his like best like greatest films of all time kind of thing.
What are his picks?
It is an interesting list. Most of it reads like a 17-year-old prospective film students list, and a lot of it I'm like, that is pretty good. Like he's got a lot of Kurosawa on there. He's got.
Do you know what his
Cinema
number one pick is?
Paradiso is? It's not really ordered. It's just
Oh,
like
okay.
these are the picks, right? But it's got stuff like Cinema Paradiso on it, and
Some good ones on here.
What did he have on there?
Escape from New York.
Oh yeah,
Mad
like
Max,
Dangerous Liaisons. He's got on there. Jacob's
My Left
Ladder.
Foot. Yeah.
You
Michael
know-
Clayton.
Rick and
You
Morty.
know,
Time
we've
Bandits.
obviously-
Yeah, he's got Rick and Morty and Time Bandits on there.
we've we've talked about the Snyder Cut in the TV movie channel obviously a lot this week. I went and rewatched Batman versus Superman this past week, and I watched the Ultimate Edition, I guess, which I guess is like the Snyder Cut of the Batman versus Superman movie, right?
Yeah.
Why did you say
I don't dislike it as much as which I feel like is like kind of what everyone's saying about this. It's like
Well,
I
yeah.
don't hate all of this. I actually like a lot of what was being
I
done here,
think-
and it feels more cohesive. It feels like the pacing is better.
Yeah.
when they put the stuff back in.
They have more time to like actually play out some of the storylines that they ended up just
Yeah.
cutting out of the theatrical version, which I guess gives it a bit more of like a narrative cohesion, but it doesn't like the overall vision and like the creative direction of the movie is still exactly the same.
Oh,
and,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's kind of
But I will say this: if because
what
I
think
hated the
went
Justice
wrong
League
with that movie.
and we'll maybe revisit this after we've watched it or something. I don't know, but like I hated the Justice League movie. I did not hate Man of Steel or Batman vs Superman. I just was like, but I feel better about those movies now, seeing them connected. And if this movie can redeem anything,
Oh man.
any of the, because like just the fact that it was such a Frankenstein movie, the original Justice League cut, if they can just no mustache Superman, like take all that shit and throw it out.
Did
Like,
they
if
fix
can
that
get rid
in
of-
this?
Yeah, that was all Whedon reshoots. There's no Whedon footage in this movie, as I understand it. So all those awkward scenes where you could tell they were like CGing out his mustache, all of it's gone, and that was so distracting. It might feel like a half decent like superhero trilogy. Like no Dark Knight trilogy, that's for sure, but like
Yeah.
not half bad. Not half bad.
How many fucking hours of film is there out there of this? Because
It's probably the same as any big blockbuster like this. There's probably hundreds of hours.
like, it just,
Oh, I mean, here's the thing. They filmed a ton of stuff, and then he had to leave the project because of a tragedy in his family
Yeah.
and all this stuff. They brought in Joss Whedon. He didn't like what Zack Snyder was doing, so he brought in people to do reshoots. That's where all the mustache shit came from.
yeah.
And like it was just a fucking Frankenstein of like some Snyder footage, some of Whedon's footage, and then like half of the shit that Zack Snyder had filmed just ended up on the cutting room floor. So it's just a weird thing. And now this is like is less weird. It's long, but it seems less weird. I don't know.
That's what she said.
I'm I'm morbidly curious to kind of. I'm gonna be honest. I'm probably gonna watch that this weekend. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like I almost have to just so I can be part of the conversation.
Guys,
you know,
I wish I wish we were out of this pandemic. I wish I could just be like, hey, let's all get together and and watch it together.
that would be amazing.
Yeah,
Yep.
it would make the 4-hour runtime seem a lot less hard hitting, I guess. But anyways, we'll talk about Snyder Cut some other time. Now let's talk about video games. God, do I have a video game for you?
Oh, here we go.
I've been playing. Okay, I've been playing Lust from Beyond. Okay,
Who wants hot dogs?
okay. I want to preface this by saying a couple things. One, I wasn't really planning on talking about this tonight because I didn't feel like, given the subject matter of this game, which is it's an adults only game, right? I didn't really know what to expect. I've never played an adults only game. All I really knew, this is kind of like an Amnesia type horror game.
Mhm.
But I didn't really want to talk about it until I'd seen the full picture, because given the subject matter, there's a lot of room for them to, make some uncomfortable decisions, right? So consider everything take whatever I'm about to say tonight with a grain of salt. I'm not necessarily recommending this game to anybody, and I don't think I'm going to do that until after I've finished it, which I do plan on doing. But right now, I'll just talk about what it is and some of the shit that I've seen. Because let me tell you, I've seen some shit in this game.
Like, is it literal shit or?
Okay, let me just tell you, there is an achievement. This is not okay.
It's not actually.
Half-Life.
Yes, that's
Well,
how
Gordon.
you pretty much tell that's
Last
happening.
one on
Here we go.
us.
Here we go. Sorry,
Okay.
my bad.
There we go. That's better.
That's a
so
better
first of
blur
all,
than the other blur.
let me tell you, it's an adults only game. I don't think we're allowed to show this on Twitch. So what you're seeing is a heavily censored version of the
We should- we
footage that
can
I'm
see
playing.
Oh man.
Maybe we
Okay.
should have showed Black Mesa instead.
I mean, it's funny. This blur now. I'm kind of like, just never mind. So I don't think we're really allowed to show this footage on Twitch, so that's why it's censored. But I didn't really know what to expect from an adults only game. I figured it just means, hey, there's lots of boobs everywhere or something, you know. Of which there
Big
is.
mommy milkers.
Leave it to Nolan to say to give us the name of every episode in the first like 10 minutes of the show. So this is straight up like an Amnesia clone. It's like kind of like a walking simulator. You're like walking around trying to find key items that let you progress, and why they tell you this really dark fucked up story. The dark fucked up story though is about this weird cult of people who worship this sex god. I don't really think they call it a sex god, but it's this god that lives in this alternate universe called Lust God. So they discovered the existence of this god, and they worship it. They all live together in this weird, crazy mansion, and they worship it, and they partake in like orgies and stuff as a means of worship. And the main character in the game that you play as is this fellow, this seemingly nice fellow at the beginning, who is a chosen one, and the cult identifies who you are, and they have to like lure you in. They're trying to lure you in and use you for some nefarious purposes having to do with the god. I don't know, but like you have dreams and like nightmares of this weird erotic world or whatever, right? So that's kind of the basic setup. And I thought there'd just be a lot of TNA everywhere, which there is, but let me tell you, there is some sex in this game. Like not only like witnessing other people having sex, of which that happens too, because like several weird orgy scenes, but like I was trying to record footage of this the other night, and then I was like, oh, this is going good, this is screenable, I suppose. And then all of a sudden the character was having sex in first person, like full blown. I was like, this I cannot show. This is definitely not appropriate for Twitch. So I went back to the drawing board, and it took me like 5 or 6 tries to get a clean set of footage, which is kind of what you're half seeing here. But you know what, guys?
It's all right, Nick. Sometimes people just have trouble the first time. You're okay.
So, this environment that you're in, is it fleshy?
Yes, it's okay. So sorry. It's funny because the footage that we're screening is all blurred out, so you can't really tell what it is. I'm almost tempted. Like, it's funny. Like, watching the footage, it looks really. It looks vulgar even when you have no idea what you're actually looking at.
Like, blurring it makes it worse.
Yeah.
It almost does. It almost does. But think of it this way. This is very, very, very heavily, like, when you actually go into like Lustga, it is very heavily inspired by H.R. Geiger.
Mm-hmm.
So everything in the world feels,
I think it's pronounced Giger.
Sexy.
yeah, you're right. Giger, H.R. Giger. It looks like you're walking around like like an alien hive from Aliens, except everything is, shaped like a penis and or vagina. A lot of like the key items that you get involved, like a lot of things like you interact with, like switches and like handles and stuff, are like very phallic. Like
I mean, most switches are.
I know, but like it's got like a nice curvature to it, right? It's got, it's very fleshy.
Is it ribbed?
Some of it's
flesh?
ribbed, yes. And you have to like grab stuff and pull it down, right? But yeah, it leans very heavily into H.R. Giger territory. Just kind of takes it to the next level. But it's funny because you can actually play the game with sensors, which is funny because you're like walking around and you're just looking around and like everything is censored. And it just makes you go, what is that?
That's what we're seeing now, right? This is what the game looks like when the sensors are on.
No. At first I thought like maybe I could just turn the sensor on, capture footage, and that would be good enough. But like when two people are having sex and they're just censoring out like the part where they're bumping uglies,
penetration.
Yeah, like it's like
it's like Japanese porn.
That's still graphic sex happening on screen.
Yeah.
Right.
So let me tell you. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, it is a horror game, right?
It is a horror game. It's very Amnesia. It's very Amnesia. Like some of the
so
voice
like
acting.
the sex component. I mean, like it's not like meant to be like an erotic pornographic experience per se, right? Like
no,
or
I don't. I mean,
like it's a very like horror, like body horror oriented kind of thing.
Yeah, so there's a lot of real fucked up shit, a lot of real fucked up like imagery and stuff, to the point where it's like it's teetering on, it's like I can't. This is not something I think you can look at for pleasure. This is really way too fucked up, right? But then there are scenes where you're like in the mansion.
Don't yuck people's yum, Nick.
Yeah,
right.
It kind of gives me thematic vibes of like Hellraiser or like Videodrome or something like that. Where it's like this really grotesque, like fleshy body horror mixed with this like weird perverted eroticism that's like not really sexy, but like kind of horrifying, but I don't know.
So also that made me think of what's that one movie, the Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise movie that everybody made a big deal about?
Vanilla Sky?
No. The one where she's in like he's part of like there's like a sex cult.
Wait, you're talking about Eyes Wide Shut?
Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah.
When you're not in like the Lustga world, it feels a little Eyes Wide Shut. With like there was one point where like I'm straight up talking to a dude and he's like about to start this like ritual that involves like cutting his hand and pouring blood into a cup, and then like I turn around and all the people that were standing behind me now are like completely naked and having graphic sex with each other. And I'm just like, what is happening right here?
Fidelio. Think Carpe Day. That's what I was trying to remember. Fidelio.
Wait, what's Fidelio?
Fidelio?
It's the password.
Oh,
stop saying it.
Sorry. But yeah, that kind of gives me the vibe. I think Krispy's on the right track as far as like the body horror stuff. But like, there's also several times, so it's teetering dangerously on the edge of like, okay, I see what you're going for. I actually like what they're going for as far as like the approach to horror and this like weird sci-fi like worshiping this like deity, and I like that stuff. I like fucked up stuff like that, and I think this does that stuff pretty well. I think the voice acting makes it kind of hard to.
Yeah.
Some of the voice acting is not so great. especially the main character. Like I feel like he kind of misses the tone that they're going for a lot. Um,
Hmm.
but
He's
then
like,
there are
yeah, baby, that's good.
so let me tell you about, and one of the main reasons where I was like, I don't want to give like full impressions of this game or make a recommendation. But first of all, I can't recommend this to everybody, obviously, because it is the subject matter is very you have to be very comfortable with this kind of stuff to play this.
Mhm.
Um, so if sex makes you if watching sex makes you uncomfortable, this
Or
is
if
a
you
no
only
go.
have one TV in your house and your parents also share that space, maybe
Yeah,
don't play it there.
yeah, don't play it here. There were several times where I was playing this in my room with my headphones on, and like something happened on screen, and I was like, "Oh God!" And I like looked around, I was like, "Robin, please don't walk in the middle of this. It's going to be really weird." Even though she totally knows I'm playing this, and it's she thinks it's funny, but um, but there's the beginning, the one thing that happened that kind of made me think maybe I should really hold off on making a recommendation. Like the beginning kind of opens like this guy is preparing it's him and his girlfriend's anniversary, and he's playing this romantic night, and he's like it's like you're going around his apartment like laying out like rose petals and stuff, and like you bought her a guitar, and he's like setting the guitar out for her to surprise her and stuff. uh and then she comes home, and then she's like, oh, this is wonderful, and then she like surprises him with like anniversary sex, and you're like, okay. But then he has this like episode where he gets a little too carried away during
Hmm.
the sex, right?
Hmm.
And she gets like, what are you doing? And I got like, for a second I was like, okay, I'm kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that is like that's like the crux of the story, I guess, because he's like having these weird nightmares, and he's like having these impulses that he doesn't understand or whatever. But that part in and of itself was like, this is probably going to make a lot of people uncomfortable if they don't handle this with any kind of care. This is going to go south real fast. um, but like I said, I got to get to the end before I can really tell if that's how that's going to be handled. um, but let me tell you, there's been several how much do we care about spoilers on this?
I mean,
I mean, for the purposes of like elucidating questionable material that people might.
Well, no, not okay. So you asked if this was like, does this feel like gratuitous in like someone just like really likes sex, so like want to like it feels like like an immature, and sometimes it does. Admittedly, sometimes it does.
hmm.
But then there are other times where I'm like, well, this is real fucked up. I don't know. This can't be made for someone to just like get get their jollies off
Right.
of, right?
Right.
Mhm.
But like there's this part, right, where you get kind of captured by this old dude who's like a leader of the cult, right? And you're like incapacitated, and he starts telling you about why you've been having these nightmares, and like you're the chosen one, and we need to send you into this alternate world, right? And I was like, okay, cool. How do you do that? And he talks about like the only way to enter this alternate universe is for a quote unquote chosen one to experience erotic pleasure, right?
He's like, it's
Uh,
not a dick, it's a mouth-based video game.
and then all of a sudden, this old dude is straight up blowing me, and I'm like, what is what
I
is
love
happening?
mouth-based video games.
That was like I was capturing the footage, and then that started happening, and I was like, nope, got to start this footage over. That's not gonna slide.
Yeah.
So like weird stuff like that, where it's just like,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's stuff like this can be challenging because it's not you can write a lot about sexuality without it being pornographic, but
right.
That's true.
And at times I think they're on the cusp of handling it pretty well, and other times it's like, okay, this kind of feels this is a strange comparison. We were just talking about the Snyder Cut. You know how everybody feels about Zack Snyder and his approach to like subject matter being just like really edgy and dark, just kind of for the sake of it.
Mhm.
Uh,
Lens
there
flare.
there are times where I feel like that's kind of the same thing here, and I'm like, was
Yeah,
this
you're
game
playing
made
for
by
shock.
yeah, like was this game made by people who are just genuinely into the idea of what's happening, or is it
Well,
made by people who just want to depict some really fucked up stuff?
that
It's kind of
is I mean, that's an interesting question that is always kind of hoisted upon work like this,
yeah.
True.
like Yeah, I don't
You
know.
know,
It's like a whole deeper discussion, but I was listening to that there was like a feminist podcast about Lolita, the novel
mm,
by Nabokov
Mm.
or
mhm.
Nabokov. And they talk a lot about how Nabokov, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. I think you're supposed to emphasize the O. But like, he wrote that novel which is essentially about really unsavory sexual stuff, right? And how
Right.
um people like always kind of just associated him with that. But
With the unsavory stuff. Yeah.
they overlook the fact that the book is like told the protagonist is like the aggressor of all of
Yeah.
that. And it's told in such a way where he's like very clearly an unreliable narrator. So
Yeah.
it's like he talks about his original inspiration for the book being he read a paper about scientists teaching a gorilla in captivity how to draw with like
Mm-hmm.
charcoal. And the
Mhm.
first thing the gorilla drew were the bars of its cage. So
Mm.
he wrote this story about a guy who's basically a pedophile, like telling a story about him doing his thing, but making it a love story. But you understand
Mm.
that like that's not how this actually happened, you know?
Yeah.
And like the layers of messaging between audience and author can kind of get twisted, and a lot of times when you see stuff like this the inclination is just like this is weird porny stuff and the guy who wrote this is a fucking freak who likes this kind of
Right.
thing, right?
I think
But
that's a really
maybe
good
there's
way of
something more going on, right?
right. And I think that's a really good way of kind of putting, like, especially when I think about like my own apprehension to make a recommendation about this, is at this point it could go either way. I still can't really tell. I like a lot of what they're doing here, just from a conceptual standpoint, and like the
Right.
execution I think is actually pretty good. There's a lot of like really creepy like chase sequences. Let me tell you, once I was walking through the streets of this like New Orleans type town, right? And I was like sneaking around. There's these like weird uh like BDSM dudes that are like patrolling the streets, and I'm like trying to sneak around, try and avoid them, and all of a sudden I heard this like clickety clack noise. I was like, "What the fuck is that?" I kept hearing it. I couldn't place it, and then I like turned around, and there was this like There's like this woman on stilts, this like naked woman on stilts, like 9 feet tall, just like towering over me. And let me tell you, scared the shit out of me. Like it's weird, man. This game is weird, and I kind of like it, but it really could go either way.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd be really interested to hear what you think about this game once you finished it.
I'm gonna try and finish it this week, so I'll give final impressions. I noticed some people in our community have been playing it more than I have. So it hasn't turned. I don't know if that says anything about those people, or if that's just kind of an indicator that like it didn't deter them and they've kept going. So we'll see. But like speaking as someone who really likes Amnesia and like those kinds of horror experiences, so far I like it.
Mhm.
Just gotta be comfortable with some sex
Gotta
stuff.
be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Anyways, moving on. Let's talk about Monster Hunter.
Oh, okay. Let's slide to the complete opposite end of the scale. I
Slide
mean,
into
Monster Hunter is a game
Probably not
ostensibly
that far
about
removed.
hunting giant kaiju and shit like that, but it is an inherently silly and frivolous game that I love deeply. Um, so yeah, we were talking before the show a little bit about like why I was playing this. You're like, oh, is this you getting ready for Monster Hunter Rise, getting hyped?
Mhm.
And it definitely was that to begin with. Like right after we played the demo, you recall,
Mhm.
for Monster Hunter Rise,
Right.
I was kind of like, oh man, I missed this, yeah. And I started talking to my friends who I knew had the game, and like convinced them all like, hey, why aren't we playing this? I bet this would be really fun, and we're all getting really burned out on these competitive multiplayers. Let's play something where we can work together and have fun, right? So
Right.
we were all like, cool, let's play Monster Hunter. And then my friend Ryan, who's like the real like lizard brain who will just in like inhale a game in like 2 days and then be an expert at it,
Yeah.
got really into this and then started kind of like coaching the rest of us through it.
Wait, was he
And
playing Monster Hunter World proper or
yeah,
Iceborne?
well, he bought the edition that's the game with the expansion, right? So
Gotcha.
I'm talking about Monster Hunter World Iceborne, which is really, I mean, kind of just Monster Hunter World at this point.
Yeah.
So if I'm talking about World, no, I'm talking about World with all the added content. So,
Right.
but this game is like development finished. Like they're not adding anything else to this, right? So
Gotcha.
this is how it exists forever. Um, and I have played a lot of this before. I played a lot of the base game before Iceborne came out, and I bought Iceborne a while ago and played a few hours of it and was like just kind of starting to scratch the surface. But overall, I've got, I don't know, I mean, dozens and dozens of hours playing this game, right? And
Yeah.
I already knew like what I liked about it and what maybe I wasn't so hot on, and I already kind of like felt like I had a really solid image of Monster Hunter in my head,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
The last week has changed everything. Has
Oh
changed
man.
everything. Like stuff I didn't even know existed in this game has started opening up in way like, oh my god, man. It has been a revelatory week for me in Monster Hunter.
Nice.
In a very good way. Like where I thought maybe I had like a 70% grip on the game before, I'm realizing I maybe had like a 30% grip on
Oh
it.
wow.
And now I'm maybe up to like back to 60-70%. I kind of feel like I understand a little more what's going on. By the way, anyone who's like really into Monster Hunter and knows what they're looking at, this footage might be very frustrating for you. I apologize. I wasn't
Hey,
really paying 100% attention to what I was doing. I was just kind of like I went into the guiding lands, which we'll talk about in a second. But I went to the guiding lands and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna hunt a monster. And I saw this one on the list that I'd never hunted before because I just unlocked all this stuff. And I was like, oh, cool, we'll try that. So this is a monster I don't know his moveset. I don't know really anything about him. And I'm not really paying attention. And I'm playing a new weapon that I'm still trying to learn, which is the Charge Blade, which happens to be the most complicated weapon in the game.
so what you're saying is it's pretty much the ideal scenario for
Oh
capturing
yeah.
footage.
You're going to see me get lost. You're going to see me not know how to use my weapon. Right here I'm trying to charge up my shield and I don't know the combo for it. So I'm wasting my vials, which is pissing me off. And
Hey, at least we didn't have to blur the footage.
it's so great.
Or if we could, if you prefer, we could go ahead and blur it.
Give me a second, I will.
No. Learn from my mistakes. I end up going back to camp 2 or 3 times during this fight and like switching my weapons out completely and just being like, no, I can't use this. Uh, but otherwise, it's me and this thing just kind of like beating each other up for half an hour. But holy shit, man. I mean, just in terms of like the new stuff I've learned in the last week from like watching videos and just like talking with my friends who are farther along than me, it is insane how fucking ignorant I was before. I'd always kind of liked the Charge Blade, and I've had a couple that I've built and used every once in a while. I consider myself a great sword main. That's probably the one I've used most, but I've been wanting to branch out and try new weapons, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll try the Charge Blade, right? And I felt like I was getting the hang of it and I was getting pretty used to it. And then I watched a video and found out that the Charge Blade actually, the loop of Charge Blade combat actually involves about 4 different phases. And I had gotten down one of them. Like,
Oh.
I was like, okay, I'm just doing the first phase over and over again. I'm not actually like charging my shield, then charging my blade, then releasing fucking whatever the snade or nade. Oh, what's it called? I don't know. It's a whole thing. It's so fucking complicated, but it's really cool. It's really fun.
This is
and
the
it's-
weapon that I remember you and Brad talking about when we were playing Rise.
Right.
Isn't
This is the
technically
one that
speaking,
was
most
like
complicated.
this is like head and shoulders more complicated than any other weapon. It's crazy how many different like moving parts there are to this thing. Like like I just did a combo that charged up my shield. So if you were looking at the top left gauge, you can see I had all these files that were full, and then they all just like shunted into my shield, which is now glowing. And the next thing I'm going to try to do is charge my sword, but I can't get an opening because he keeps attacking me every time I stop to do that. But I'll eventually get it off, and then I'll have a charged shield and a charged sword. And then from there, you're supposed to go on to like filling the vials again, and then doing these really powerful like ultimate attacks in the axe mode. And that's supposed to unlock another mode called Savage Axe, which I still don't know how to unlock.
How do you fill the
Wow.
vials?
The vials just come from attacking with the sword.
Gotcha.
So as you attack, and there's one attack that like is a wind up. It's like a charge slash that fills them up really quickly. You can see the vials are yellow right now, which means I have some charge that I can shunt into the blade. But that we're getting so far in the weeds here. It's crazy. But overall, in like the global perspective of the game, my progress is I have finished the Iceborne story mission, the story quest, right? So I am now officially in end game. And what I didn't know is that end game for this unlocks a completely new area, a completely new map for you to go to. That is an amalgamation of all the maps in the game. And it's called the Guiding Lands, and it opens up this game's version of free hunt mode, which is basically like you can go out and there are just monsters roaming around and you can hunt them forever and ever and ever. And as you hunt in different areas of this map, you actually level up those areas. So rarer and rarer monsters start showing up, more powerful ones.
Oh.
And then like you can unlock things to lure out monsters. So you go talk to your handler and be like, hey, I want to lure out this one specifically. And she'll put some bait and lure it out for you. And it's just like, it's fucking crazy like how much different the game is now. Like you play dozens of hours of this game, you get through the story quest, you think you have it all, like you're like, okay, I got a feel for this game, and then they're like, nope, we're in endgame now, it's a new video game, and we're unlocking new play areas, we're unlocking new monsters. There are 4 new monsters post story content for
that you can only
experience once you beat the story. Yeah, including the final end game boss, which is Fatalis, which has like all the best gear. You're working up to fight Fatalis to make Fatalis gear, basically. They start unlocking new customization mechanics. So it's like, now that you're in the end game, you get glamour for your armors, you get glamour for your weapons, you get augments. They have like a completely new system for customizing weapons in the end game. And it's just fucking insane, man. It's like, I had no idea there was this much waiting behind this wall that I like barely even knew was there, you know?
That is nuts. But like what's it's cool. Like it's weird. I'm kind of split because I feel like it's a really cool idea that like the game changes so significantly post game or like in game, but at the same time that loop you described in the in game just on a base level kind of sounds way more fascinating to me. Like than the general loop, I guess, that you spend like so much time in beforehand. It's almost a shame you have to get through all that stuff before you get to that point. But hey, I mean, this is coming from somebody who has.
I mean, this is definitely a game designed for the kind of people who like, I don't know, like one of the guys who makes guide videos that I watch constantly talks about how he's played this game for 2,300 hours,
Holy
and
shit.
it's like, man, I kind of believe you now. Like, it's fucking wild how much,
Yeah.
like, but that's what this game is. This is like one of those lifestyle games that like you're probably gonna play over and over and over again for a long time. So it's good. It's good to have that much content behind the story,
Right.
because it's so easy to get to credits and then feel like, okay, well that was it, But
Yeah.
here the game's like, no. Now the real experience begins, and it's, I was sad for the game to be ending, right?
Yeah.
And then found out, no, the game's not ending at all, and was like, oh my god, it was almost like, I don't know, it's not quite this dramatic, but it's almost on the level of like learning about the Upside Down Castle in Symphony of the Night and being like, oh, I only played half the game,
I finally get that reference.
Yeah.
So,
And
Hooray!
so are there no more missions? It's just full free roam.
There are no more regular missions, there are assignments as they were called. Now you have special assignments, so there are still missions, and there is still like story content. It almost seems arbitrary that they were just like, this is the end of the story, and here are the credits, you know. And
Because in
then
reality,
the
it's not
game
even
keeps
the story.
going and going and going, and they're like, okay, well, you've killed a bunch of elder dragons. Now you gotta. Oh, there's another elder dragon. Go fucking kill that, you know.
They
And
just wanted an excuse to show you the credits before, because we
yeah,
realize a lot of people will never get much farther than this to see the credits. So here,
it
have some credits.
yeah, and I mean it is really great. Like I can't think of a single thing except maybe the wonky multiplayer system, which even that I don't hate anymore, and I've kind of like grown to not love, but oh, you are a janky Capcom game, aren't you? But damn,
Never
you're
forget.
good, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, it's like you're a scrappy little fighter who just wants to get out there and push some units overseas, and you know what? You're fucking doing it, man. You're fucking doing it. I love this
Like
game.
no,
I
like
love
nobody's
I
business.
love this game. Like to the point where like I said, I started playing this because I was like, I want someone to hold me over until Rise comes out. And uh, don't get me wrong, I pre-ordered Rise. I'm getting it day one. But now that I'm like here in the end game, I'm like, I can't stop playing this now to go play
Like
a
that
new
shift
Monster
gears.
Hunter. Like, no. And like Rise looks incredible. I think it looks great. I'm super excited for it. But it's a Switch game, you know?
Yeah.
And you look at it and like the biomes don't look quite this diverse, you know. They still have things like turf war, so there are still other monsters wandering around, and they'll get into fights, and like that's really cool. But like it doesn't quite look like this, you know. And
Oh,
I've just
I get it. Yeah.
fallen in love with this, and I
Well, it's probably
yeah,
gonna
I
take me
mean,
like 2 weeks just to learn, like, to really get comfortable playing Ri- Rise before I'm
yeah.
ready to maybe jump in with both feet.
It's
But
so weird because it feels like getting into Monster Hunter is like a multi-step process. It's like
Oh, definitely.
not only do you have to learn to play the game kind of like how it wants you to play, because none of that is intuitive. There's so much information in this game and about this game that is never presented to you in any way, really. It's like I
yeah,
don't know how this game exists without like YouTubers making guides about it, you know? Like it's I mean it doesn't.
no
They
one. You
have
still want to play this?
like
I mean, I brought up my frustrations with Capcom's decisions on the demo, and not only that, but like yes, how the game works. And Crispy's describing it perfectly. That maybe they are just encountering so many problems with trying to fit all of the potential content they would need to just to explain to you how to play the game. They're like that they're like fuck it,
oh
and they
yeah, I
bring up the
really
point that
think
like Brad said a couple of weeks ago that it's like the community already knows. If someone new wants to learn, they'll learn from the community.
Right.
yeah, like I really do think it's like if you wanted the comprehensive list of like all the combos and like the rotation for this weapon or something like that, like they're gonna hand you like a fucking 40-page manual and you're gonna be like, well, I'm just not gonna play that game then, you know? Like
Yeah.
which sucks because you're really not equipped with just like the little tooltips that pop up, you know? And like
Mhm.
there have been times where it's like, I just need to know how this one thing works. And I'm like Googling like a madman trying to figure it out and not getting clear answers, right?
Right.
That sucks. That doesn't happen very often, but that does sometimes come up and it sucks. But on the other hand, I do think this game is good enough about like getting you enough into it, like being like, okay, I can kind of see that there's this like crazy amount of depth that I'm not really like touching yet, you know? Like
Yeah.
I've been playing this game for 40 hours and I'm noticing that like half of the options presented to me and like a few of the stat things that are presented to me are things that I'm just not worrying about right now, right? And hopefully that kind of gets you into the inquisitive mode of like wanting to learn that stuff, because then
Sure.
Right.
it's a lot easier to go to those sources and just sit down and be like, okay, I'll watch a 30-minute video about how to swing a fucking sword, you know?
Because you already
Like
have the desire at that point.
right, because I came to it and I wanted it, right? And that's like part of the process. It's like not only do you have to learn enough about the game to play it to have fun, you have to learn enough about the game to want to learn more about the game, basically. You know? and it's really weird, but getting there is like super satisfying. And like honestly, I'm really thinking back to like, you know, teenager me who is just seeing like Monster Hunter on the PlayStation for the first time and like has no idea what I'm looking at, but is like really like enamored with like the giant swords and the monsters and stuff and going like I don't even know what this game is, but I really want to play it, you know? But like not having the fucking hard drive for my PS2 that lets it connect to the internet and just being like, I guess I'm never gonna play it. And watching the series move to PSP and be like, then I'm definitely not gonna play it, you know?
Man, what a journey!
That kid who thought like, man, Monster Hunter would have been a great thing to get into, huh? And then like oh, just wait 20 years and it'll come to PS4 and it'll be incredible. And I feel like it's been worth it, you know? Waiting
Yeah.
for it all this time's been worth it. I'm sure I missed a lot of great Monster Hunter in the meantime, but this is so good. This is so good. I don't even want to move on to the next big amazing one, you know?
I'm so tempted just because I'm a crazy person and I have no self-control. I'm like tempted to like fucking install this game. Like, but why would I start World with
Here's the
Rise like
thing.
a week and a half
Here's the
away?
thing.
But like,
If you did that, they do have armor and weapons called the Defender tree. That the whole point of it is that they're crazy overpowered and they're just designed to get you to end game.
oh,
Like it's kind of weird and it's like again, it's one of those things where you're gonna play the game for 20 hours with these Defender weapons and be like, okay, I guess this is kind of a thing or whatever, and you're still really only gonna be like 20 or 30% like I don't know up to snuff on what the game is, but like it's just yeah, it's weird, man. It's so compelling though. Um I don't know. I don't know if I could recommend you going back to this one now. I mean, I think it's an amazing game, and I think if you got into it, you'd have fun with it. But like, if you're really thinking about getting into Rise, maybe just wait for that one, because that
yeah.
also looks pretty
I
incredible.
mean, it's also like it could very well be a thing where I get Rise and get like addicted to Rise and I finish Rise and I'm like, all right, now that I know what I'm doing and I love
Finish
Rise.
Rise.
Yeah, sorry. But when I get to a point where I'm happy
Well,
with
here's the
my
nice thing,
experience, I
man.
could be like, now I can go back to World.
I feel like at this point, I don't know how official any of these rumors are, but I feel like at this point, the way the community talks about it, a like PS5, Xbox, whatever, XS,
Series
Xbox
X.
Xbox Series X, follow up to Monster Hunter World is probably gonna happen at some point in a few years.
That's probably a
Oh,
given.
yeah. You know?
It may be announced this year for next.
Like
I
they
mean,
kind
also
of been.
this is Capcom's like most successful. Is this the most successful release for them just in general?
This is the most successful release in the West by
like Monster Hunter release or just Capcom release in general?
no
'Cause I feel like
Monster Hunter. This is
I thought
the
I saw
single.
something crazy.
Yeah. This one sold. This one didn't. This one did about as well as the others do in Japan. Maybe a little under some of the like the last couple. But in the West, it did so much better than any of the others that have released out here have ever done that it like almost made up for the Japanese release and then some. Like
Wow.
it was crazy.
Well, I mean, accessibility and platform make a huge difference.
They made a shit ton of money off of this game, and like I think they've already kind of communicated that they're committed to doing like a alternating, like they want Switch to be like the portable one, and then they want to do like another console one at
Yeah,
some
it
point.
makes sense. Makes sense. Also, think about the Switch Pro that's been rumored for so long.
There's that too.
Like, get to the point where all of a sudden Monster Hunter Rise looks just as good as
What if they
Monster
do a
Hunter World
follow
or
up to Monster
close.
Hunter World and it's on Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation and all that shit? You know,
That'd be a
all
game
together.
changer.
That'd be crazy.
Man, that would just be printing money.
Yeah, it
Holy
is.
shit.
Well, Monster Hunter World came out beginning of 2018, so theoretically, this would be the right time the right year to announce it.
Was it 20?
Hey,
Yeah,
Yeah.
January 2018.
yeah. So it's been 3 years. It's been over 3 years since the release. So it's not unreasonable to think that
All right.
this game could be announced soon.
As of December 31st, 2020, Capcom's second highest selling game is Resident Evil 7 with 8.5 million units.
Oh my
Just
God.
and then wait, what was the first?
Monster Hunter World
Okay, so I'm not wrong. This is
With-
Capcom's most
with
successful.
16.8 million units.
What?
Holy
Yes.
shit!
It did
Oh.
double what its
Yeah.
second highest selling games ever done.
I'm gonna be
this,
honest.
This is from Capcom.co Japan, so this is like official. Like,
Wow.
I'm gonna be honest. And you know me, like I adored Resident Evil 7. I'm kind of surprised Resident Evil 7 is their
also,
second highest.
that doesn't include Iceborne. Iceborne is their number 6 selling game.
So combine those together, and it's even more.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
combined, it's over 20 million units.
That is bananas.
Because Iceborne has 7.2 million.
Dude, there's nothing else like this, man. It's a
Yeah.
great game. And I know there's probably Monster Hunter fans listening to this going like, duh, it's amazing. But like, fuck, dude. Like, I knew it was great. I already love this game, and now I love it way more than I did when I put it on my top 10 list in 2018.
All right,
Dang.
here's another fun fact for you. Their number 10 selling game came
Of
out
all
in
time?
2010. Yeah. Monster Hunter Freedom 3 on the
Yeah.
PSP.
Yeah, that was a big one for them.
Wait, they have a PSP game as they're in their top 10.
Yes.
Dude, it's
Best-selling
probably not
games?
the only one.
Yeah.
That is-
Like there was a couple Monster Hunters that were huge in Japan on PSP.
That's the only one in the top 10. Their
I mean,
top 10 is World, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2, the remake.
remake or
Resident Evil
or
5, yeah, the remake in 2019.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, Iceborne, Street Fighter 2 from 1992, Street Fighter 5, Resident Evil 2, the original, and then Monster Hunter Freedom 3.
God, that is a huge Resident Evil list. My
Yeah.
God. I'm so sad
my
that Resident Evil.
As
6
soon
is
as
on that
as soon
list.
as you get to their like
Oh,
11 through
and-
20, 11 is Monster Hunter Generations, 12 is Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, 14 is Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, 15 is Monster Hunter 4.
Wow.
There's
Yeah.
Resident Evil content in this game too.
Yeah, there was the whole
I'm not
Resident
so-
Evil 2 mansion and all that. Right?
There's a special event hunt where you can hunt a special variant of the Valhazak, which is a dragon that normally like emits effluvia, like poison. But I think in the Resident Evil version, it'll like actually turn you into a zombie. Like,
Huh. That's cool. That's cool.
it's fucking cool. Yeah, I mean, Nick, I 1000% support you in any Monster Hunter endeavor you choose to take. I know. I don't know if it's a great idea to just like start this game or if to just wait for Rise. I don't know, but play one of them. Play one of them. They're
Oh.
great. They're so good.
I absolutely intend to. I feel like at this point it might just be safer to start with Rise. But I kind of if Rise works for me, if it takes off, I might find myself coming back to this.
Yeah.
All right.
Fuck yeah.
Why don't we take a break real quick? I have one quick game to talk about when we come back, and then we'll answer some questions and all that stuff. So if you're watching us live, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Before we go into more impressions and answering some questions, I want to do something I said I was going to do weeks ago, but I didn't do it, and I think it's about forming habits. So here we are. I'm going to start forming this habit. We like to do feedback. We read comments from our previous episodes, respond to questions and thoughts and whatnot that may be coming up after a show has been posted. So I'm going to read those now. So again, I want to encourage everybody. We used to do this at the beginning of the show. I think it probably fits better to do it as kind of like a lead into the second segment. So we'll do it here since this is more of a community-driven segment anyways. So again, if you have any thoughts, questions, comments directly related to any of the discussions we have on this podcast, you can always leave us a comment on the post for this episode at 4playernetwork.com. And assuming I form this habit efficiently, I will be reading and responding to them at the beginning of the second segment going forward. So, last week, our first comment comes from Thorax. says, seeing how Nolan is mildly excited for the new Pokemon game coming out next year, I'm wondering if he's getting Monster Hunter Stories in July. I feel like Nolan's not like necessarily the biggest. He hasn't quite 100. He hasn't really been sold totally on Monster Hunter in general yet. So
we did talk about Monster Hunter Stories a couple. Was it last week or the week before?
I think it was a week before.
Yeah.
Week 4.
Because Brad talked about it, and so we talked about it a bit. As of right now, I don't plan on it, mainly just because of time, and what I've seen of it has not got me so excited that I feel like I need to play it. So not as of now.
I feel like I'm kind of in the same boat, but like who knows? Like if I really get into Monster Hunter Rise, that could very well happen. it could just get out of control.
Anything's possible.
Yeah. Piosht. Oh, sorry, I skipped one. Slop Dog, good old Slop Dog says, and Brad is not here to respond to this, but Krispy is here, so we'll let Krispy handle this one. So it's so wild that Brad now realizes what MMOs are. After years of believing they were the most potent heroin, he found out they were just low-grade Advil. If you're not enjoying it, if you're not enjoying it now, Brad, then it might be good. It might be good to stop now.
Why did he call them? Oh, sorry, continue. Sorry.
He says if it feels like work now, then it might just feel like work 80 hours from now. Also, that hot dog bet segment was brilliant. Thank you.
Why did he call it low grade Advil instead of like baby aspirin?
Well, it's like I think a more apt analogy, if you're going with drugs, would be like he thought it was gonna be heroin. He thought he was gonna get hooked. It was gonna like completely derail his life, and he was gonna end up like that dude from fucking that fucking movie. Why can't I ever remember movies?
Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, Requiem for a Dream. Thank you. But in reality, it's more like Coke, you know? It's like you take a hit and it works for a few minutes and then it wears off and then you take another hit and before you know it, you've spent thousands of dollars on hits. And you haven't really accomplished much.
That's a really I feel like that's a really layered approach to that metaphor there. I was not really expecting you to go for like two, because you know, from an outsider's perspective, like heroin and Coke, they both seem pretty serious, but the way you just described it, it makes, and you know, maybe they are, but
they're all serious, but it's a gradient, right?
I like that. That's good. And our last comment tonight comes from Piosht. He says, I believe they announced that Nomura will not be the director of Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. Because we always talk about Nomura-ing the shit out of
Kingdom
Final
Heartsing
Fantasy.
it up. Yeah,
Kingdom Heartsing it up. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't remember seeing that. I would love if somebody in chat could corroborate that, because I would feel like that would make a lot of people feel better about this situation. But I feel like that would be like much bigger news if that was actually the case. I'm pretty sure Nomura is still fully.
Oh my god! If they could get Ryan Johnson to do it, I would buy it 5 times.
That'd be interesting.
Hell yes.
I mean, he may not be the director, but he might be like a producer or EP on it.
Yeah, and there's no way Nomura doesn't have
the
his
foundational
hands.
work. So
yeah, there's no way Nomura is not gonna have his grubby little hands all over this game in some way, shape, or form, right? Right?
Jay Hit in chat says that Famitsu interviewed him, and he's not going to be taking the director's role.
He did say it's a recent interview, so maybe we just missed the Famitsu interview. I'm gonna check that out. I'm gonna look for it. I mean, it does imply he's stepping down as director, but like you said, there's also very possible that he's just sliding into a different role. Well, you know, which makes sense because I mean, I feel like maybe his role in the first game was more of like laying the foundation, and now that the foundation has been laid, it's kind of like, well, maybe we don't need you in that role anymore, and he probably has other projects lined up, like 14 other Kingdom Hearts.
They're like, thanks,
spin-offs.
You've ruined this enough. Get out.
But anyways, yes, guys, thank you so much for your comments. Again, if you want to chime in ask us a question, continue any of these insightful discussions we're having tonight, go to 4playernetwork.com, find the post for this episode, and drop us a comment. But now, before we get to questions, community questions, I had one more game I wanted to talk about. It's going to be brief because it's a brief demo that I played. I've kind of been keeping my eye on this one for a while. It's called Chasing Static. And so I've been following... I can't even remember how So I think I found this guy, because this is one of those games kind of being developed by one person. And I kind of found him through the grapevine when I really let myself get into Dusk, because obviously I was kind of slow in the uptake on Dusk, and I played that last year. It finally hooked me. And then that kind of connected me to several other indie game developers who make kind of similar games, including the guy who's making Gloomwood. And then I kind of stumbled across this guy who's working on Chasing Static. And this game, there's a demo out now on Steam and itch.io. Itch.io, is that what it's called?
Yeah, itch.io.
Yeah. So it's a pretty brief demo, and as I understand it, this is a very narrative focused game. It's a horror game, but it's when it finally comes out, I do think he has said, as far as setting expectations go, it's going to be like a 2 to 3 hour game front to back. Which could also explain why one person is able to test it so free. He's like, I ran through the game today, and I was like, damn, you just ran through the game today? But yeah, it's like it's a fairly short experience, especially if you know what you're doing, I'm sure. But this game is it's like a Silent Hill, straight up like a Silent Hill game with kind of this weird. First of all, like what do we call it? It's actually the look of this game kind of looks like Valheim, and I can't remember what's the word.
Low poly.
Yeah, lo-fi, low poly kind of look, but it looks really nice. And it has this like really nice thick atmosphere. At the beginning of the game, you're driving into town. Into this town. I don't really know what the entire setup is because the demo doesn't go super deep on it, but you're driving into town, you kind of get lost. You stop at this little diner on the side of the road where you meet this waitress, and you're asking for directions. She offers to she points you in the direction because she's like, you made a wrong turn, so I can show you where to go if you give me a ride after I get off work. And then all of a sudden you lose the diner loses power, and you go back and you offer to fix the circuit breaker or flip the circuit breaker for her. When you come back out, everything is like dilapidated and she's gone, and it's like there's all this weird like radio equipment set up in the diner, and it's just, it's like, okay, this is obviously not what this was like a few minutes ago. And actually, when you're driving into town at the beginning of the game, it does this cool shot where you're like, the car drives down the road, he throws his cigarette out the window, and as soon as the car kind of goes
Nick,
out of
littering
sight,
is not cool.
No, it's not.
Sorry, I'm not saying littering is cool. I apologize, but it's a cool shot where he flicks the cigarette out the window, the car kind of disappears out of the frame, and then all of a sudden there's like this like flicker and flash, and all of a sudden the road that he just drove down, there's like barricades up, and the sign that says "Welcome to Hearth" is like all dilapidated, and it's just like, okay, that's weird. So after all this shit happens, you kind of wander into, when you leave the diner, if you try and like run up the road, you eventually kind of loop back around, and you come back and you're like coming at the diner from the other direction, and it's just like, what the fuck? So you get in the car and you drive down the road, and then you end up getting into a car crash, and you end up in this ditch, and that's kind of where the bulk of the demo takes place. You're kind of wandering around this open environment trying to find clues. You're finding all these notes that imply there's some kind of like the town has been. This seems to be kind of like a like nuclear fallout type of thing, where there's some kind of weird, like residual, I don't know, like supernatural element that's kind of come to fruition in this town as a result of some kind of like nuclear fallout. I don't know, but
atomic ghosts, love it.
Atomic ghosts. But like that's kind of the general setup, and you're like wandering about, and you're it's very Silent Hill in that you're looking for key items that let you. It's also kind of like Lust. I think this kind of. That game I talked about earlier, Lust, is also kind of in the same vein as Amnesia, which is also kind of loosely inspired by Silent Hill. And I think I just like that style of horror game. I don't know.
That's kind of just a horror game at that point, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
You just like horror games, Nick.
I do really like horror games, but it's not very, it's not combat focused. This is not like you're not running around with knives and guns and shooting monsters and stuff.
How many horror games are really all that combat focused, though?
That's
a bit of a tangent, but But
That's a good
I
question.
feel like it tends to be a pretty story focused.
Wait, did you just get a job?
No, she's like, I gotta finish cleaning up, but you can help. It's like a very small town, so it's like, yeah, you can help yourself to some coffee. It's behind the counter, and I'm like, oh, thank you. So I'm like brewing coffee and whatnot. It's she seems very friendly. I
Okay.
was like, oh look, can I help myself to the cash register here too?
Oh,
Um,
sure.
um, but yeah, I don't know. It seems like a really cool setup. It's got a really cool atmosphere, and I really, really, really love this low poly, lo-fi
Mhm.
look of which is obviously becoming kind of a theme. It's kind of the same reason I'm really looking forward to like Gloomwood, which also that game
Mhm.
just plays beautifully. But you know, I like this trend of like lo-fi horror games. It's really nice.
Who walks
So
around with their coffee mug like 2 inches from their face? Just gonna
um,
walk around the room real quick.
Somebody
you
who
know,
really
you just
fucking
want
likes
to see
coffee.
it. You just want to see it, make sure that it's still there.
He just
It's
want to
not.
make if
It's
it,
just
if it
that
goes
he
out
lacked
of vision.
object permanence. You know,
There
he's
you
just
go.
like coffee, coffee, coffee.
yeah, you know, it's funny you say that because I finished Black Mesa last week and I started Half-Life 2, which still amazing fucking video game. But
Mhm.
I kept catching myself thinking about like, God, why did I know it was kind of the way games were made back in the day, and you know they've tried to move away from this a little bit by making everything look more like natural and cinematic. But like the fact that your gun is kind of always in the air, like pointing forward,
Yeah.
seems super weird to me. It's just like nobody walks around like that. I know it's kind of just one of those things you have to kind of accept, but it's kind of the same thing here. It's like he's holding the gun up the same way this guy's drinking coffee. It's weird.
Mhm.
But
Especially when you're going up and down ladders and shit, and you're like, how are you climbing this ladder if I can see your fucking hand holding the gun? How are you
Yeah.
climbing this ladder? Just with your feet? I
He's
don't think
wearing
that.
a hazmat suit.
Well, there you
Uh,
go. There's the answer.
so also this footage. This
Doesn't
is
that
kind of
just
why
explain everything?
this footage is also kind of why I was like a while ago. I was kind of tempted to ask Chris Davis to fast forward because you spent a bunch of time in this diner, and in the demo wise, you haven't really gotten to that point where like the demo is actually like started, quote unquote. Like the lights
Hmm.
in the diner just went out here, but you know it's not that important. But like I encourage you to check out the demo. It's obviously it's free demo. It's only like 20-30 minutes. If you know what you're doing, you can finish it in like 5 to 10 minutes, minus the dialogue and stuff. But it's coming out this year, and he said it looks like it's getting close to being finished. So yeah, if you like that type of game, check it out. It's called Chasing Static, and I'll just leave it at that.
Cool.
okay.
Looks interesting.
Wait, what?
I said it looks interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's got a really nice atmosphere, and you're like when you're outside in like the field and stuff, it's like raining, and you can hear the rain coming down. There's a lot of cool lighting effects, and you find this like dead body that's covered in this like green radiation stuff. I don't know. It's got this really cool look to it.
I like horror stories that involve radios.
Yes, there's definitely that. That is definitely a thing happening in this game. In fact, you don't really get it in the demo, but like a lot of the footage they've shown so far, I think heavily implies that it's called Chasing Static for a reason. And I think it's kind of an odd thing that they didn't include that in this demo, but it seems I think unless I'm misunderstanding, you eventually get a hold of a radio and you're using that as a main like mechanic
It's
as
like
like as far as navigating the world and kind of
it's like
progressing the story.
phasmophobia.
Fuck yeah.
You gotta
Yeah.
use the radio to communicate. Cool.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. All right. So, with that said, we have quite a few questions from the community to get through tonight. And I want to remind everybody, so if you are interested in asking questions in the future on future episodes, you can go to our Discord at discord.gg/4player. Go to the supporters channel, and the link to the questionnaire or the survey form is pinned in that channel. You can leave a question anytime you want. If you're a supporter on Twitch or Patreon, you should have access to that channel. You can leave a question whenever you want. And even if we don't get to it tonight, we jump around a bit, we will eventually get to your question. So with that said, Nolan, take it away.
Go! All right, first question tonight from the Drunken Merchant. What character in any video game series benefited most from a change in voice actors? Claire from the original Resident Evil 2 going into Resident Evil 2 Remake is a good example of this. Disclaimer, This is not saying the original voice actor was bad, just that the future one portrayed the character more accurately to you.
Well,
I
he did
wonder.
steal like one of the only examples I can think of.
Yeah, so we talked about this before the show, and most of us could only come up with examples of bad changes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, who asked this question?
The Drunken
The
Merchant.
drunk-
The Drunken Merchant. I wonder if Drunken Merchant's part of the 4-player Final Fantasy 14 community, because we've been talking about this a few times recently. Because there's a few of us who are playing through the game for the first time, and some of us are very concerned about voice acting in that game. And others in the community who have played longer have assured us, oh, don't worry, there's more voice acting later, and they changed like the entire voice cast for that game.
Really?
And it was like all a positive move. Like pretty much like one character in particular right now where I'm at in Final Fantasy 14 is named Alpha Node, and he's like this teenage boy wonder, like genius magic kid. And his voice in vanilla Final Fantasy 14 in A Realm Reborn is like okay, but they changed his voice actor for Heavensward, and he's with you a lot in Heavensward, and he talks a lot, and it's like way better. Like he seems more like an actual person now than just like someone reading goofy dialogue in a sound booth, you know?
Yeah.
And
I got one. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Continue, Chris.
no, that's the most prominent
I
example I can think of recently.
Does that kind of tie into what Brad had said about the fact that he had heard like at some point the production values in Final Fantasy 14 start skyrocketing?
Yeah,
So,
all the production value goes up, but one of the big ways it goes up is that they start doing more voice content, and like I guess they ended up moving the production studio to England. So there's a lot like they hire a new voice cast, and it's a bunch of like British actors, and they're all like just way better than the old voice cast.
So I thought of one that
Okay.
I could actually. It's a game I've never played, but I'm just familiar with the change in voice actor. And I know it's not like the sequel to the game or anything like that, but it was replacing Peter Dinklage in Destiny.
Oh,
Oh
yeah, that's
yeah.
another. I can't believe I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That happened so long ago, I forgot. But yeah, that's
Because we were trying to we were talking about this before the show, and yeah, a lot of the stuff we came up with was kind of steps backwards. Replacing David Hayter with Kiefer Sutherland in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Sam Fisher and
Sam
Smurfville.
Fisher.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, and I, this is not gonna. I've said this plenty of times. While I do acknowledge those are both steps backwards, like I did kind of find both of those performances to be inoffensive or unoffensive.
Nothing against the performance. It's just I still
the
feel
same.
like the original voice actor would have done a better job.
Yeah.
Kind of type scenario.
I think David Hayter's replacement is especially jarring because he used to talk so much, and they didn't have the Kiefer Sutherland money, I guess, to like have him talk an adequate amount. So he
Yeah.
was just notably quieter.
Mhm.
But when he did talk, I liked it.
There's
just
nothing
felt-
against Kiefer
Yeah.
Sutherland. All right, let's move on.
Actually,
Oh, sorry,
I've
what's up,
got
Chris?
one actually. Kratos
Look at
from God
us.
of War.
Wait.
from the original.
Oh, right, yeah,
actor
yeah, no,
to
no.
The original
Yeah.
one was a different one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Terrence
I-
Carson
I-
going over to Christopher Judge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Christopher Judge did an awesome job.
did a
God
really
of
good
War
job.
2018.
Mhm.
Damn, that's a good one,
Damn.
Chris Davis. Look at us. Look at us.
Love
We
Teal.
can do this.
Answer
We can do
community
this.
questions. We can do it.
Oh, man.
All right, we got a lot more, so let's keep going. Next question from Mr. Regular Questions. What shampoo do you use?
I don't know.
I mean,
Let me check.
this gonna-
I can't remember.
Oh, okay. All right. There we go. Is Mr. Regular Questions is that gonna be his thing? He just asks really generic, like non-video
Maybe.
game related
I
questions.
think that'd be great.
like
Yeah.
preferred brand of mustard.
none. Thank you.
You know what?
The answer is French's.
French. Oh yeah.
Yeah, French's.
Fair enough. I like Grey Poupon. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
I use
Crispy has
the tea
returned
tree
with his
stuff.
shampoo.
Suave Professional Men 2-in-1 Ocean Charge. Salon proven to clean hair as well as American Crew moisturizing shampoo. It's a shampoo and conditioner.
Crispy has been pulled in and fooled by the 2-in-1.
Yeah, I don't buy into the combo stuff. I just want straight shampoo. No, don't give me conditioner. Don't put anything else in there.
No,
Just
but
give me
this-
fucking shampoo.
This shampoos and
want-
conditions.
But I don't want condition. I
Why?
don't want conditioner.
You don't want to hydrate your hair?
No, I've got fucking oily hair. It's already fully hydrated.
Oh.
Confirming what we all thought. Sorry.
Well,
I
if
want
it's
2
oily,
bottles,
then
damn
it's not hydrated. It's the opposite of hydrated. Oil and water don't mix.
Mm-hmm.
I love how
Goats.
I
It's
love
true.
how Crispy just completely just pushed our response to the side. I was like, you don't understand. It does both.
No, it does both. In one bottle.
It says it
And-
right there in the bottle.
Look how big this bottle is. This will last me a while.
So
Got that
be-
shampoo situation figured out for the foreseeable future.
I used to use I don't even remember. I think it's another Suave brand with a scent that I liked. I don't know. But at some point I ran out and Robin hadn't run out and she was like, you could just use it's the same. It's like not like it's not like
Use a woman shampoo? Are you?
like, but her no, but
Just
I mean
kidding.
it wasn't like what she had wasn't necessarily overly
It's
like
shampoo.
Like the scent wasn't like something I wouldn't want in my hair, and I was just like, yeah, whatever. And then I was like, and it's kind of tea tree-ish too, so I was kind of like, yeah, I like this. So now I've just been using Robin's. I don't know, I have no idea what the fuck it is, but I've been using it now for like 2 months. So we just share a bottle, and when we run out, we get a new bottle, and the cycle continues.
Nice.
Illumination in chat says my dad uses women lotion. Dude, I take Bernadette's lotion all the time.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
what does it matter? It smells nice. Sometimes my elbows get a little ashy.
Lotion is
put some
lotion.
Yeah.
What does it matter when your job's sorry, there was a
Okay, Nick.
It's like
Okay.
men's lotion. They either have to make it smell like nothing or they have to make it smell like leather and bullets or some
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
a tire.
I still use shampoo, even though I don't really have much. But I only do it like I think 3 times a week, maybe. Essentially, just like I don't know, whatever. Unfortunately, I'm one of the 50% of the population that has dandruff, so I use like a T-gel, something or another. It's some dandruff shampoo.
I'm there
That
with
shit
you, Nolan.
gets expensive.
I mean, when you use about that much 3 times a week, it's actually
Fair
not that
enough.
bad.
Yeah.
It goes a long way on my head. But yeah.
All right, I can't wait to see what the next regular question is from Mr. Regular Questions.
We'll
Next
get there at
question.
some point. Next question from Negative Cosine. What's worse? Urinals with no dividers or the trough?
The trough.
no.
The trough.
The trough.
Hold on, let's explain it because as we've known,
The trough.
for people who aren't familiar, I don't know, I'm sure we have a couple of women listeners who aren't familiar with the trough, but there are multiple types of urinal scenarios you could be in. The single urinal, that's just a line of them on the wall. Some of them will have dividers. Sometimes the dividers stop around shoulder height. Sometimes they go all the way up, so you don't have to make eye contact.
You don't have to.
And then
sure.
there's the trough, which is literally just a very, very long trough that everyone stands next to each other and pees in.
Think of it like it's like a shit. Like you would look at it normally and
Water
think like,
in it. It's just a trough.
You ever watch old Western and you see where they line up the horses and it's just that big old thing of water? That's a trough.
That's a trough.
And that's what some places have for us to pee in.
A
Thanks
lot of
for
the time.
trough splaining to us, Chris.
I mean, sometimes these things have to be explained.
I mean, I feel like there's probably I wouldn't be surprised if like if a woman were to walk into the men's restroom and wasn't familiar with this concept, be like, oh look, a shared sink. This is where men can wash their hands.
And as soon as you get up close to it, it just smells like piss.
Because some of them
Troughs are
also
I've never been to a place with a trough that smelled nice. Every single time I've been somewhere with one, it's like there's like a trickle of water that runs through it once every 13 days.
Maybe.
And so it just smells like piss.
Yeah. So yeah, there's
They're the worst.
and some of them have like the flusher on the trough is like it's like a knob that you hold and it
Yeah.
sprays water out. So, but like some of them are so are so big and so powerful it could look like it's for like washing your hands, like because it like sprays outwards away from the wall. But no, it's a it's a it's a piss trough.
I
Also,
think we've all.
usually
I
I
think we've
find
all.
those in
Mhm.
I usually find those in bars, like really maybe grungy
Bars or like big venues.
Yeah,
Like
a lot of
stadium.
music venues.
Mhm.
Tell you what, I've seen them a lot at like, so when I go to like when I used to go to metal shows, like in like metal venues would have them. Um, but I also found one. I can't remember what's the name of in the domain. I think it was this
Mhm.
in the domain, the Culinary Dropout
Oh
place.
yeah,
I think,
yeah.
I think it was there. I walked in. It's
Huh.
like a really nice restaurant. I walk in there and I'm like, it's a fucking trough. What? And not to
Nick,
mention the trough was like
it's
on the
it's a
wall with
culinary
the door.
dropout. They had to save $500 by getting a trough.
And it was also
Uh,
like conveniently located, like so. When someone, it's one of those like dual entrances. So you walk, there's like an airlock, right? You walk in
mhm.
one door, and there's another door you go in that actually takes you into the restroom. But like, say it's like a crowded restaurant, so sometimes there's like multiple people walking through the airlock at once, right?
And the
And
door's wide open.
I'll be sitting there pissing in the trough, and two people are coming through, and both doors are open. I'm like, great, great, I love this. Nobody thought about this. Sorry.
I think we're all in agreement. The trough is the worst.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't mind dividers. I enjoy them. It depends. If I am at a bar and drunk, I don't care. But if it's just like a regular day, I'd rather have a divider there between me and this random dude standing next to me.
I'll tell you what. There's been I don't obviously don't go out in public a lot right now because of the pandemic,
Mhm.
but I do still go to work obviously, and our restroom has two regular urinals with a divider in between them.
Mhm.
But whatever. It's a pandemic right now, right? So most of the time, if I go up and I go to the urinal and someone else walks in, they just go to the stall because
Sure.
social distancing, right? But the other day I went in there and I was peeing in the urinal. Some dude walks in, just walks right up next to me, and I was just like, just like wide eyed,
Yikes.
like double uncomfortable now. Like,
Mhm.
whoa, dude, whoa. Gonna wash my hands like 14 times before I leave, before I leave this restroom. Anyways, trough suck.
Let's move on. Yep.
Next question.
Next question from Thorax. Nick Henderso. If Neil Druckmann not only directed the upcoming season of Dexter, but also did similar story beats that he implemented with The Last of Us 2, what would your reaction be?
Okay, first of all, I feel like this is a loaded question. Trying to imply. So, first of all, I like Neil Druckmann's decisions that he made story wise with The Last of Us 2. So I think he's a pretty good writer for video games, anyways. Most of the stuff that he's done that I've played, I've really liked. I don't know. He hasn't proven himself as like a TV show writer, although he is writing on the new Last of Us show for HBO. So I guess that'll be like the test, right? To see how he does. But he's co-writing. But as far as I don't know what he means necessarily about seeing the same story beats playing out for Dexter, because I don't think that's like a 1-to-1. Maybe if I took more time to think about it, I could figure out how there would be similar story beats. But like on one hand, if The Last of Us 2 didn't exist and then those story beats were somehow translated to a season of Dexter, I think that'd be cool. I liked The Last of Us Part 2 a lot for the story. If it happened in a world where The Last of Us 2 existed, I would obviously feel robbed of a season of Dexter because, I'd be like, I've seen this before. But other than that, I don't really know how to answer your question.
Cool.
Well,
Let's move on.
I guess we'll see.
Next question. It's either Michael Illinois or Michael from Illinois. What are some early YouTube channels? Maybe both. What are some early YouTube channels you used to watch, or what are some of the older websites did you used to visit to get your jollies off?
Whoa. Wait, to get our jollies off? Or to just
to have a good time, whatever.
Yeah.
Homestarrunner.com. Used to love that shit.
Rathergood.com.
I don't know that one.
Rather good. Do you remember the Quiznos ad? The "We love ourselves." That was an adaptation of another skit about the moon from rathergood.com.
Gotcha.
I
mean, obviously, I think most of us can agree. Newgrounds.com.
Yeah, I was about to go
Newgrounds?
Newgrounds, maybe. Yeah.
That was pre-YouTube, Newgrounds, and E-Bombs World, I guess. Yeah, those were the places to fucking be back in the day.
Bounds.
Right around that time, right around, I guess, when YouTube came out. You're the Man Now, Dog. Zero Skies just brought that one up. I was going to say that one.
YTMND?
Love me some YTMND. But yeah,
Reddit?
Newgrounds was great because Newgrounds was great just because not only was it like games and stuff, but then just like the random videos and shit. Like I loved me some Group X stuff from back in the day.
What about was Newgrounds where I play? I remember playing hours of like Jet Slalom. Is that Newgrounds?
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I'm talking
yeah. I think Newgrounds had Jet Slalom. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool video game, I guess.
What else?
Icon Has Cheeseburger was one of the early meme sites.
That was yeah. Addicting Games. I think I remember going to that one.
Addicting Games. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to think of. Oh.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I used to play that in my high school engineering class instead of doing work.
There we go.
There was some good stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all I can think of. Bernadette says Neopets.
Neopets.
I was never into Neopets personally, but I know a lot of people were.
I mean, back in the day, I spent a lot of time on. This is not really the same type of thing, but I spent a lot of time on GeoCities and Angel Fire, making Dragon Ball Z websites with animated GIFs. Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
You and
those were
about a quarter of the internet, yeah.
Exactly. Those were kind of cool.
Yeah, memories. All right, let's move on to the final question. Dangle, I remember that too. I know exactly what you're talking about. Final question this evening from Zero Skies. What do you think was the pitch that convinced Google to greenlight Stadia?
Ooh.
You guys like money, right?
So yeah, my assumption is money. Obviously, with anything that Google does, they don't do it because they're nice. They want to make money. I'm definitely sure that the pitch was, Sony for a while had been doing PlayStation Now, streaming games, and so my assumption was they're like, well, if they can do it, and we're better at computers and networking than Sony, then we can do it better.
Yeah. This technology had already been explored for years. They already had the hardware infrastructure for it. It probably wasn't as big of an investment as it's made out to be.
I think the concept was that, hey, it's 20 whatever year it was when they pitched this. A lot of people buy consoles. A lot of people buy PCs. What are some of the limiting factors? Well, obviously, whenever you buy a console or a PC, those things go out of date. Well, in theory, this thing is all web-based. So as long as you have internet, it can't go out of date. You don't ever have to buy new hardware because we buy the new hardware for you and just pass the benefits on to you. I think that was probably the concept.
Yeah, I think it was
essentially we can provide a platform that will never, be what's the word I'm looking for? Like made obsolete.
Yeah,
probably the concept.
It just kind of feels like whatever the pitch was. I think it seems like maybe a lot of people got really excited because on paper it sounds brilliant. It's just I don't think the proper care was given to, or at least the proper consideration was given to, just widespread accessibility and infrastructure and all that stuff, which is obviously a very important part of that conversation. I just don't feel like that conversation was or maybe it's just another situation where, people with a lot of money, rich folks, if you will, often are, I guess there's out of touch, I guess, with like, what's reasonable or what's
they went around the room and were like, hey, who here has at least 100 megabits down at their place, and everyone's like, yeah, I do, sure. Well, it's because they
And they're
all
also
live in California or Washington or wherever they were at the time, and it's like, yeah, we all have fast internet. So, and I'm sure they maybe did some poll and looked at Steam use or something, whatever, just to kind of get an idea. And we're like, oh, we think enough people have fast enough internet that they'll buy into this. Well, the problem is most of those people that have that fast internet already fucking have, PCs or consoles or whatever, and they therefore don't have a reason to buy into this other thing. Why am I going to pay X number of bucks a month if I already have the thing that can do it?
X number of bucks a month, and they have to buy the games.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
Not to mention, on top of that, like, people are also already burnt out on doing this kind of subscription model via, like, for all their TV streaming needs. So, like, maybe if I wasn't already paying $8 to $10 a month for like 14 streaming services, I would be more willing to throw Stadia on top of that list. But a lot of people are just done with it.
If Stadia would have been like combined with that, with like Google TV or some kind of service like that, instead of being its own standalone pay this price product, then it probably would have got a better reception.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it still seems like kind of an amazing idea that could very well end up being the future. Is just that future isn't necessarily now, and that's unfortunate for the reality of that project.
It's a project for at least probably 5 to 10 years from now.
It's going to be a little while before there's enough infrastructure out there that everyone can benefit.
Infrastructure, but also reforms and like at the FCC and converting things to Title II. And then the really big thing is going to be data caps and conquering that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe I feel like maybe we would be ready to like start playing with this at the beginning of the next generation. It seems like way too soon to have them trying it now. But the question was what was the pitch, and I think it was just kind of what you expect it to be. Just there was not enough consideration given to certain very important aspects of it. Yeah.
Cool.
That was our last question.
Yep, that's all the questions this week. Thanks to everybody who asked. Like Nick had mentioned earlier, we definitely skip around the questions we have, so we still have several more that if you asked one before, we haven't gotten to it yet. But don't hesitate to ask another question, or feel free to ask whenever you want. There's the link to the Google form where you can fill out your question there and submit it to us, and we'll get to it at some point.
And real quick aside, right? We always joke about ask us questions about video games, but we get questions about urinals and troughs and whatever, which is great. I like answering those questions too. But I was thinking about it because we had this conversation about news, and a lot of times we kind of skip over news. And it seems to me, I don't usually like to kind of tell people what kinds of questions to ask, but it seems to me, especially with news, like current events in the industry, it seems like the news section is kind of obsolete. If there's a news topic you want to hear our opinions on, asking questions via the form is the perfect way to get us to talk about a news topic, right? Because we always sit here and debate about what news topics we want to bring up in the show. Do we want to do news this week? Do we not? And it's kind of like, if y'all would just ask us the question, ask us about the subjects you want to hear about. I mean, obviously some of those are going to get covered in our 4-player minutes and whatnot. But, if you want to find out what we think about today's announcement of Life is Strange 3 or whatever, throw it in the form, and we'll answer it. It's current event. So I just figured no point being quiet about it anymore. I'm just going to say it. There it is. Anyways, let's move on. Let's wrap up the show with the 4-player minute. Hype, sweat, thank you, fuck you, or any combination thereof. Brad usually starts us out, but he's not here tonight. So whoever's ready can go first, because I go last.
I'm ready.
Nolan? Cool.
All right. My 4-player minute starts now. My hype is for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier tomorrow. I'm pretty excited about that. I've kind of liked where they're going with not everything has to be a big, blockbuster. These kind of smaller, more personal things. I don't want to say, obviously, if you watched any WandaVision, there's plenty of like CG and stuff in that. So obviously a lot of resources go to that, but there's a lot more times where you can do scenes where it's just like conversations and character building and stuff like that. And I really like that. So excited for that. My sweat is the Snyder Cut. I kind of want to watch it. I've only seen the movie once in theaters when it came out, and I have not seen it since. I'm kind of interested to see if this is better or even worth my time. I don't know. I'm thinking about it, debating
The
it.
strange thing is that like the consensus, like everyone says, "Hey, this is still not a great movie," but like the consensus seems to be that it's better and worth watching. It's weird. Did not see that coming at all.
My sweat is going to go to the fact that it's spring now. And my grass is starting to come back in, and my yard needs some attention, and my flower. It says, like, I have at least, 30, 40 hours of yard work I've kind of let go to the wayside over this, winter that I need to start working on. So it's going to take up a bunch of my weekend gaming time. And then my fuck you is going to go to Chai Tai for gifting me Honey Pop 2 Double Date because now I have to play it because I feel bad.
Well, he gifted it to me too, but I haven't necessarily adopted Nolan's strategy of I have to, otherwise I feel bad. But
No, he has to shove it down his throat. He has to make him regret it. Oh, are you challenging me to play Honey Pop 2? I'll fucking play Honey Pop 2.
you think I won't do it?
You know what? This could make for a really good mini Project M.
I don't know if are we allowed to stream that game. I don't know how bad it gets.
We'll
I just watched a single trailer, so
we'll put it on YouTube.
Okay.
That's it. Krispy.
Okay. My hype is for Candlekeep Mysteries, which is the new D&D book that just came out. I just got my copy in the mail. It's really cool. It's the whole thing is that it's 17 short mystery adventures, all of which are related to the fictitious location Candlekeep, and each one actually begins with a book in the Candlekeep library. It's just really cool. It seems like a really neat book, and I'm really into D&D, so I'm excited about it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, right? I've never heard this about you. My sweat is actually the exact same as Nolan's. It's the whole, like, until today I never had once considered that I would watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, but now I kind of feel like I just want to be there for the conversation, you know? I'm not expecting that it's going to change my opinion about, like, I saw Justice League in theaters, and, like, my opinions about that movie is just, like, it is such a nothing to me. Like, it's just ran right through me. I don't care. It's very, very different reaction to the one I had to Batman v Superman, which was actively, like, passionate dislike. You know, I actually felt something in disliking Batman v Superman, but in Justice League I didn't feel anything. And as much as I do not like Zack Snyder as a creative artist, as a director, like, as much as I disagree with his creative vision, I've never once called the man a hack, because he's not. Because hacks don't have creative visions so specific that they're willing to just burn every bridge in their way to get there. Hacks just do whatever makes them money and doesn't make waves, And
Zack Snyder definitely makes waves.
That is not what this guy does, right? This guy made Sucker Punch. This guy cashed in all of the goodwill he had built up to that point in his career to make Sucker Punch, which, I mean,
I still haven't seen that in theaters, but I own it.
I know, and I know you like it, and people do like it, and it is a very specific. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know, but it's like, whatever you think about that movie, it's obvious that was like a thing he needed to get out, like, he needed to get it out of his head.
You know what I keep forgetting he made?
It's so weird, like. What?
What's that?
The Dawn of the Dead remake?
No. Well, I forgot that too. Wait, he made
Dawn of the Dead from 2000?
Like the one that takes place largely in the shopping mall?
In the mall, yeah.
Well, the original Dawn of the Dead. The original Dawn of the Dead takes place in a shopping mall. But yes, the remake.
I liked that movie. I liked that movie a lot.
And
I did too when I was in high school, but that movie's also like, kind of fucking miserable in how like misanthropic it is. But it is a zombie movie, so it makes a lot more sense, you know?
Right.
But
No, but the
yeah.
movie I was gonna say was I always forget, and this seems dumb in retrospect that I forget this is Zack Snyder somehow, but 300.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That
because I
was
liked that movie a lot when I saw it back in the day. I don't
yeah.
remember much about it now, but like it
Yeah.
makes total sense as a Snyder movie.
Oh
But I
yeah.
just for whatever reason I never made the connection now. So I don't
Absolutely.
know.
Absolutely. Um, but yeah, I think at some point I'm just gonna like bite the. I think I'm gonna spend a month to watch that movie, but I think I will eventually have seen it all.
All right.
Um, whatever. I mean, it's the Justice League. You know, I love the Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I hate his vision of these characters, but whatever. Whatever. My
Fair enough.
fuck you for the week goes to the current special assignment monster I'm trying to take down in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and that is the Furious Rajang. It's a giant gorilla beast, and fuck that thing. like like seriously, fuck that thing. It is
I have all the faith.
unrelenting. It is brutal. It is a real fucking dick. And my thank you for the week, which I totally thought about before this moment, goes to. I don't know if I said this last time I was on the show, but I am going to say thank you to everyone in the 4Player community who has been so helpful and so informative and so encouraging on my playthrough of Final Fantasy XIV. You guys have been wonderful. It's a great community, and honestly, the only way I feel like I could have gotten as far as I did in that game, or have so far in that game, is because of this community. If I didn't have this, I probably would have given up long ago. So thanks, guys.
And Discord has just made that so much like when
Oh
these
yeah.
kinds of little
And it's been
micro
kind of
communities
neat because
pop up.
people who haven't been in that channel have been popping in and being like, oh, maybe I'll give it a try, you know? And it's like becoming a thing. And it's like, okay, cool. You know, maybe it's not for everybody, but there's a lot of stuff to enjoy there, and it's fun.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Chris. Chris, are you ready?
Yeah. All right. I might steal some of your stuff here, Nick, but my first hype this week is for Forspoken.
Nope.
What, really? Well, then you need
That's
to pay...
not on my. That's no. Sorry, that's not on my 4-player minute. Is all I was saying.
Okay, I was going to say. So, Forspoken, otherwise known as Project Athia, was shown off for the first time today in Square Enix's presentation. It was pretty much the one really interesting thing about that entire like hour-long thing.
Is that really an hour long?
Something like that, yeah.
I didn't watch the whole thing. I just caught the highlights.
Yeah, I mainly got the highlights myself. But holy crap, this looks really fucking good. It's Square Enix doing an isekai video game, but as kind of like a giant open world thing with a really interesting transportation system.
You know what? Okay, so real quick, just because I'm not going to mention it in my 4-player minute, but I was watching that trailer. Looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like first couple thoughts I had were, I don't really know if I trust Square Enix as like an open world game designer because that's not what they do. Two, the movement system reminded me very much of like the Pathless and how he was like bounding around and stuff. Obviously, just not with the mechanic of like shooting the things, which looks cool.
Yeah.
But I just don't know necessarily if I trust the vision of it's just Square Enix doesn't make. I immediately thought of like Final Fantasy 15 open world, and I was just like, not really. What I look back about this, I don't like Final Fantasy 15 all that much, and this kind of reminded me of that just in terms of.
Well, I mean, it may not help your opinion of the game because a number of the developers that are at Luminous Productions, the new studio that's making this game, worked on Final Fantasy 15.
Right, and honestly, when they first announced this product and that was confirmed, I was like, this is a project, one of those project games. This has got to be like some Final Fantasy spinoff. Like I was fully expecting the announcement today to be like Final Fantasy something.
I mean,
but I was
I mean, it looks good to me. It looks like Square Enix trying to do Dragon's Dogma.
It could very well be cool.
Yeah.
Could very well be cool. I'm not writing it off by any means. I just, I'm just like, I'm being wary because Square Enix doesn't really make open world games. That's not what they're known for. So I don't know.
I mean,
We'll see.
Let them try.
Looks cool though.
My second hype this week is for the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Now that I am free of the Game of the Year stuff, one of the things that I had installed months ago with the intention of playing on my computer was Mass Effect 3, so I could play some multiplayer. Well, since Monday, I've put about 21 hours into it.
Jesus H. Christ.
And it's been so much fun, and that community is still active, and there's still a lot of people playing it. Man, I really hope it sticks around just past Legendary Edition launch.
I thought they said that they're not going to include the multiplayer in the Legendary Edition.
In the Legendary Edition, yeah, but they haven't said anything about turning off the multiplayer in the base version.
Gotcha.
In fact, I think in a December interview they said they weren't going to touch it. So that's good. At least I think. Hopefully, I unlocked today my Volus Adept, my biotic god, and it's kind of hilarious how he's only like 3 feet tall and he can't even see over cover or take cover. He can't vault anything. So he's just kind of hiding behind things and shooting targets. It is so much fun. My third hype this week is for the Microsoft stuff that's been going on. First off, this today, there's evidently for Game Pass and the Windows Store a new version of The Evil Within 1.
What do you mean a new version?
It's being described as a remaster without being the quote-unquote marketing of a remaster. Evidently, it's a whole lot of fixed code, and they've added new content like a first-person mode, like FOV options, infinite ammo, fixes for camera bob, like a bunch of stuff. Like a fix for the
quality
stamina.
of life stuff, it sounds like.
Remember the bullshit about Evil Within 1 where the stamina ran out in like 2 seconds? Well, they've increased that significantly, so it's now evidently a lot better. And it includes all the DLC. So
Evil Within 1, especially when you also take into consideration the DLC, is a great ass survival horror.
That's a very
game.
good game.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty decent video game.
Even before all these quality of life improvements.
Yeah. But that being said, I'm glad that you're releasing a 60 frames per second port that actually has nice quality of life improvements. The other thing is that Microsoft announced that they're doing an ID at Xbox event on the 26th, and they're going to be showing off 25 different things.
That's mostly indie stuff, right?
Well, indie, yes, but they're doing things like Devolver Digital, like Drinkbox, the developers of Guacamelee 2. They're going to show off their project.
Ooh, what if it's Guacamelee 3? I'll take that.
I mean, sure.
It'd be nice to see them do something different, but I like Guacamelee.
Maybe some queso.
I get the joke, but I'm like, I can't. No,
it's a dad joke.
And but one of the games that's headlining the event is a reveal of Stalker 2, and that is something to get really hyped for. So
I'll take a gander at that.
Yeah, and my one sweat of the week goes to Doom Eternal: The Ancient Gods Part 2. It got dropped today. And I streamed the first part on Monday, wanting to play through it, and that content I think is supposed to be like 5 hours long. I played it for nearly 8 or 9 hours on the feed trying to beat. It is so challenging.
I was about to be like, should I play this? And then you said that, and I was like, nope.
Did you enjoy Doom Eternal?
At times. I mean, there's no denying that's a very well-made video game, but man, that came close to. I came close to rage quitting that game a couple times.
Well, I mean,
Yes and no.
Well, let me tell you, they throw so many scenarios and encounters at you in the Ancient Gods Part 1 that you really have to have played quite. You should have done a lot of practice before actually playing the DLC content.
Yeah. Yep,
There's one encounter in there in which you're fighting 2 marauders at once.
Nope. I'm done.
Yeah.
Count me out.
But hey, the new DLC's out now.
That's like
and
them.
You're gonna fight Mecha Satan. Like, how is that?
I like
not
they
exciting?
were just like. I like how they were just like, oh, you don't like Marauders? Let's double down on it.
Let's double down on. And then there's possessed Marauders, which are even more powerful that you had to fight, and like they add a lot of interesting stuff to this content, and it is substantial. Like for the price point, it's worth the money, I think. But like, goddamn, I was banging my head against the wall for a while for some of those encounters.
Yep. Nope. I'm gonna let you cover that one.
Yeah.
You can tell me all about it. I'll watch your footage. I'll nod. Like, that looks cool.
Week. Yeah.
That looks cool. I'm not playing it though.
Yeah. But Mecha Satan, how is that not exciting?
You like your Mecha Satans and Mecha Hitlers and whatnot. That's cool.
Every enemy boss out there in the world is better by making a mecha version of it. Just think about that boss, and it's automatically better when you add mecha.
I don't subscribe. That sounds like a Zack Snyder approach.
Just start naming games, and I'll tell you whether the boss is better.
All right.
Mecha Abby from The Last of Us Part 2. Boom. Loading great.
What about Assassin's Creed, the Mecha Pope?
The Mecha Pope. That'd be fucking great. Let's do it.
All right. I'd play that.
Mecha Pope.
All right. Is it my turn?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My hype this week goes to it's kind of a hype / sweat. We've mentioned here already the Snyder Cut. I don't know if I want to devote 4 hours of my weekend to watching the Snyder Cut, but like I said earlier in the podcast, I rewatched Batman vs Superman. I've always been kind of a defender of Man of Steel, and I found this second rewatch of Batman vs Superman to be more cohesive and it didn't feel like as much of a mess. Like, I'm not necessarily on board with all of the creative decisions, kind of like Krispy said, but it felt like a more appropriate movie that time around. I watched the Ultimate Edition or whatever you want to call it, which was nice. And I'll be honest, I kind of like how Zack Snyder chose to tie like the stories in these movies together, like how all the events in Batman v Superman were kind of a direct result of all of that crazy shit that happened at the end of Man of Steel, which everybody complained about. Obviously, everyone was, all, like, demolishing Metropolis and all this shit, but like that was kind of the taking off point for Batman v Superman. I thought that was kind of a cool justification for why Batman wanted to take down Superman. So I liked it more this time around. I don't know, and I hated Justice League in theaters, and a lot of that has to do with Joss Whedon coming in and just making a fucking Frankenstein movie. And I'm just overall very, very curious if he can somehow make this movie not only better, but make it feel like kind of a nice bookend for those 3 movies. Because I already feel like I have a much better view of the first 2 now. So I don't know. I'm just curious to see if he can pull it off. Do I want to spend 4 hours of my limited time on the weekend watching it? I don't know.
Maybe just spread it out.
Maybe I'll just start watching it, and when I feel even the slightest need to like take a break, maybe I'll just do it. I'll just take a break. No harm in that.
Just start a timer.
We'll see how it goes.
Every time you want to watch it, set it for an hour and just stop when the timer goes off.
That's what me and Bernadette did with The Irishman. We split it into like 3 sessions.
The problem is I started doing the same thing with The Irishman, and I never went back to it.
We definitely went back and finished it. Yeah.
Which sucks because I was enjoying it. I just forgot, and then I forgot everything that happened in the first half, and I was like, I don't want to start over. But anyways, that's where I'm at. My thank you this week goes to, I was actually invited very last minute on Sunday to be a guest on my favorite Dexter podcast that I used to listen to back in the day, which is obviously come back from the dead now that there's a new season in the works. So Gareth, the guy who puts on that podcast, has literally not done an episode since, a couple months after the series finale aired in 2013.
Series finale? Thought there was another season.
Right. Original series finale, no longer series finale. So he brought it back, and we recorded an episode where we were just spitballing, talking about a lot about the old seasons and kind of how it looks now in retrospect, and what we're expecting or hoping for the new season. And we talked for it was three of us, and we talked for over an hour and a half. Could have kept going probably. But I'll post a link to that episode in the show notes. The podcast is called Dissecting Dexter. And it was a good time. He texted me and he was like, "Hey, I know this is short notice, but would you want to record a podcast in like 2 hours?" And I was like, "You're telling me you want to talk to me about Dexter? Fuck yes." So I was there, and it's out there. So again, I'll post the link in the show notes if y'all want to listen to that. My sweat this week goes to Dying Light 2. So Techland last week was teasing a development update for Dying Light 2 because it's been quiet for so long, and obviously a couple months ago there was all that controversy because of, and still ongoing controversy because, they've been bleeding talent. There's all kinds of toxic workplace discussions happening and whatnot. So I didn't know what to expect from this, but they've been building it up. They've been like, there's a dev update coming next week, and we didn't know whether to think, oh, they're canceling it, or they're going to talk about like they're delaying it for another year and changing the scope or whatever. But that's not what we got. We got a short video that was an entirely too long segment of like developers reading mean tweets, which is a whole nother discussion in and of itself, because it's just like perpetuating this toxic bullshit that people throw at developers, but whatever. And then followed by them saying that there's news coming and the game is still apparently coming in 2021. And they showed like a 10-15 second snippet of new footage with a new enemy type, which looked crazy. But yeah, it was basically just saying, hey, we've got updates coming soon, and it's still aiming for 2021, which is big news to me. And they opened up a new Discord channel where people can ask questions. I posted a question, and they said they're going to do videos where they answer them. So I went right for the jugular. I don't. That's not necessarily true, but we'll see. After like 15 minutes, they had 1,700 questions submitted. So I have a feeling they're going to have to pick and choose what they answer.
I mean,
obviously,
it's pretty transparent what's going on here, though. I mean, it's the end of the fiscal year. There's been a lot of hesitation regarding what's going on with that studio. They need to keep those investors happy. That's why they're fucking doing this PR move.
Yeah,
otherwise they wouldn't have been talking about this for another few months.
I am still very worried, obviously, because a lot of stuff's been happening around that game, and it seemed very plausible that they could be, changing the game just from the ground up as to what it was going to be, or delaying it and they already kind of delayed it indefinitely, but now it seems like 2021 is back to being its release window. So it seems like it's still kind of on track to be what it was originally promised to be, but who knows? But there hasn't even been like any news about like whether they're switching to PS5 and Xbox Series X, because it was, when it was announced, it was still PS4. So
I'm sure they are. I don't see a reason for them not to.
I would be shocked.
That might be one reason for the delays, is because they're like, look, we can't delay this game till a year after these new consoles come out and not put it on the new consoles.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad that there's news, but there's also kind of sweat, and also kind of a fuck you, because like your dev update was that there's dev updates coming.
Yeah,
that's lame. But whatever. I'm just glad that it's not canceled, because there were some people throwing around the idea that it was maybe canceled, which would be weird to build up hype for an announcement of a cancellation. But weirder things have happened. And my fuck you this week goes to Lust. Well, it's not really a fuck you. It's just more of like
a fuck.
There's lots of fucking in Lust. More than
Nick.
More than I was maybe prepared for.
It shouldn't matter what goes on behind closed doors between 20 consenting adults. That's up to them. Shouldn't get involved.
You're right. That's absolutely true. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it. That's our show this week. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for tuning in. 4playernetwork.com is the website. You can find all of our podcasts there. We stream all the time. You can find us in Discord. We're always talking about games and movies and shit. At discord.gg/4player. If you want to support us financially, you can go to patreon.com/4player, or you can subscribe to us on Twitch. Either way, we appreciate it. But regardless, whether you do Patreon or Twitch, you can submit questions I'm going to be bringing back the supporter spotlight next week. I'm kind of revamping the questionnaire to make it renew it, make it feel new, but also at the same time make it a little more bite-sized, I guess, for us to actually do on the podcast, because we get a lot of like answers that are like super long-winded and whatnot. So I'm trying to cut down on that a little bit so we can get through that segment in a reasonable amount of time. But like I said, I'm going to be bringing that back. So if you're a supporter on Patreon or Twitch, keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, anyways, check out all of our year in review content and tune in next week. I think David's going to be on next week. We'll see. We'll talk about more video games then. So until then, good night.
Bye.
Night.